gonna wait for you to join. Hopefully Stephanie comes back, the others join. I'm coming early because the mass got done earlier than I thought, but I'm here at Santissima Trinità. I just served mass for the 25th anniversary of a priest. It was a solemn mass in celebration of his ordination. And we are here at this church, Santissima Trinità dei Pellegrini e Convalescenti, the Church of the Most Holy Trinity of the Pilgrims. Oops. And Convalescents. And it's also, I'm coming here, there we go. Yeah, it was a problem because my phone was locked in the wrong orientation. But I'm coming here, we have spoken about this facade before in the last 2 videos. The last 2 weeks, we've had these live tours. And this is the facade that we were talking about, that Agnese said is going to be restored soon. So it's not supposed to be this orange. You can see that these other buildings are the same color. We've seen this color on other buildings in Rome as we've been walking around. So this actually is supposed to be, you can see there on the bottom where there's the white and that line right there, that's all real travertine, which is the same stone that you find on buildings like the Colosseum and just the facades in Rome. It's that travertine stone. So this church, that will be cleaned. The whole facade will be cleaned. All of this orange will come off. Agnese is actually not in here at the moment. She needs to come in. Maybe she'll jump in. But all of this orange will come off. These statues, you can see, are miserably dirty. Look at that. Just calcium upon calcium of years of rain and everything. Because the water here in Rome is just full of all these minerals. So is the rain. So that's going to be all cleaned. You'll see the real travertine up to that point. And then the rest will be done in a fake travertine, which is how it was originally made. And then this orange was actually done, I think in the 60s, but it had nothing to do with, it was just because the facade was in disrepair. It had nothing to do with any sort of ideological, let's paint over the facade. It's just was cheaper. So it was either done in the 1960s or it might have even been done in the 1870s. But I don't know that history. So I wanted to come here. We're not going to talk about the parish. We're not going to talk about the Fraternity of St. Peter or the Latin Mass. I wanted to talk about how this church is not only dedicated to the Holy Trinity, but it's also in honor of Saint Benedict, because Saint Benedict actually lived not too far from here when he was studying in Rome. So imagine that 1,500 years ago, Saint Benedict was here in Rome, and he was just maybe. Well, we're gonna walk the path. We're gonna go to the home where he was. So we'll come back to this church in the future. We're gonna walk through the neighborhood of Trinità. As you can see from the thumbnail of the video, it has beautiful artwork, beautiful marble inside. So we'll come and do a tour of that in the future. But we're gonna go to the left here and walk to. Where are we gonna walk? We're gonna walk through this neighborhood, which is the Regula neighborhood, the Rione of Rome. If you saw on Instagram, and I don't remember if I put it on YouTube in the shorts, but we had a procession for the purification of the Blessed Virgin Mother, Blessed Virgin Mary. We had a procession through these streets, through this Rione, the Regula. And it's something which is very cool. So not only did Saint Benedict live so close to this area, we're going to walk right now to this church of San Paola alla Regula, and that is where Saint Paul was under house arrest at some point in his time in Rome. And so here, the church is rarely open, but it's another beautiful facade, and it gives you an idea of what Trinita's facade will look like when it's restored. So this is the church here. We're just, as you can tell, we barely walked down the street and we already come up to this other church, which is in honor of St. Paul. feel like I need to zoom out for you so you can see more, because in these streets it's harder to see the perspective of everything. So this is in honor of St. Paul, and you can, if you go inside, if ever it's open, on the epistle side of the church, you can step down into a chapel, and that is where St. Paul lived when he was in Rome. And again, this is the Regula Rione. You can tell, let me see if there's San Paolo alla Regola. So that's just saying it's San Paolo in this neighborhood called Regula. We're gonna walk behind this, and what I'm gonna take you is I'm gonna take you on the island. If you didn't know this, in the middle of the Tiber River in Rome, there's an island, and maybe my friend can tell us who is buried on that island. An apostle. An apostle, St. Bartholomew, is buried on that island. So I don't know if we'll be able to go in the church at what time it is. We're going to be able to go into the church where St. Benedict lived. Well, I have to be careful. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. You have to be careful when you're walking through the streets and trying to do something else, because you could very easily get hit by a car. But yes, you're just walking and there's a church, or this is just residence, actually, of people. There's a parking garage over there. It's not very attractive, but right next to Trinità, there's a parking garage. And I didn't say there's a hall right next to Trinità, which is actually belongs, officially, was original property to the parish. And if you saw that video of the procession on the Feast of the Purification, you saw people in red habits, or you've seen that here on my channel or on Instagram. There's a group connected to the parish, which was founded by Saint Philip Neri, called the Venerable Archconfraternity of the Most Holy Trinity of the Pilgrims and Convalescents. And they basically ran the parish, the operations of the church. Of course, there were the priests, and but what this church, the reality of this church was, it was founded in 1616. The reality of the church was that it hosted pilgrims, and so it hosted actually a lot of saints. St. Paul of the Cross is one saint that slept there. It's in his life. They account that what would happen is you would come as a pilgrim to Rome, and there were these hospices for pilgrims, and Trinità was one of them. And they owned all of the property around. The Archconfraternity owned this property. I'll stop for a minute, because this little car here is kind of an icon of the center. There's this Roman lady who is always driving. You always see this car parked in different areas. She's always dressed elegantly. She's always going about her business. And it just lets you see that Rome is there's like these little villages. I was just, as I've spoken about on the channel, I've moved outside of the center of Rome. And that means I'm seeing a lot more of Rome, which is why I'm happy to take you with me on these live tours, because I get to now see more of Rome. I used to stay in this little village, which is the center of Rome, and I've seen these same people ever since I moved to Rome for years upon years, and especially with all of the lockdowns and everything that was going on in Rome, there were no tourists, so it was really just the local people, which was quite fascinating. And so I don't know if they recognize me, but I definitely recognize them. But definitely the people in the grocery stores and other shops, they recognize you because you just walk your habitual walks every day, going to class or going to church or going elsewhere. So anyways, the Archconfraternity, you would come and they would host you. It's just you would have a stipulation that you would attend Mass, and in the time that you were being hosted, you would hear spiritual conferences, you would confess, and you would receive Holy Communion at least once during that period. As we know, or you might not know, but Holy Communion was not as frequent until 100 years ago. And it wasn't so encouraged to receive Holy Communion every day or every Sunday, so people received communion much less often. And as you might know, you should know this, our requirement to receive Holy Communion is just once a year, because we know how serious of an act it is and how great of a gift it is. That's what the church requires of us, and of course we do have the gift to receive our Lord every day if we wish. And that's, of course, to encourage us to have a more lively devotion to the Blessed Sacrament, and of course to receive the graces from that act. But that was one of the acts of charity which went on with the Archcomp. Okay, bad cell service. We'll see. Just tell me if I lose you. So we're gonna walk to this island in the middle of the Tiber, which is actually one of the earliest settled places in Rome. And then it became this sort of, you can see it here, beyond those trees, those are buildings on an island. That's actually a hospital which I've been to a couple times. It's an adventure to go to the emergency room in this country. I don't know how it is in other European countries. The friend that's walking with me now is from France. But definitely coming to this hospital, just impromptu, going to the emergency room. It was nothing too serious, but still, I waited 7 hours. And then once I was there in the middle of the night, and I just thought, I was like, is the doctor here? Is someone here? They gave me an IV just to hydrate me. And I thought I was just gonna die on the table because no one was there to help me. I made it home and it was fine, as you can tell. But it's some of my friends laugh about it because it is sort of this I have sort of pride in the fact that I went to this hospital twice and survived. But here is the Jewish synagogue, which you might know this, that also is one of the, how would you say it? It's one of the oldest Jewish sort of settlements outside of the Holy Land, and therefore also a very old neighborhood in Rome. But you have this beautiful church, which we'll get closer to before we go onto the island, that you can see in the distance. It's very small, and I don't know the situation or the state of the interior at the moment, but there's a fresco of Christ crucified, and I forget, there's a message below in Latin as well as in Hebrew of Christ speaking to the Jews, which is just very beautiful and very intimate as it sits right here next to the synagogue. I've actually never been inside. It has some beautiful art, as you would expect in Rome. Not so much in the, it's not really the interior. They don't have the same philosophy of decoration that we have, obviously. But because it's Rome, because it's a significant synagogue, they have beautiful vestments. And, of course, to give dignity to sacred scriptures, the Torah. But you can see already there the tower. So what we're doing, if you're just joining, is we're walking from Trinità dei Pellegrini, and we're going to the place where Saint Benedict lived. And I just want to tell you, because Santissima Trinità is also built in honor of Saint Benedict. In the altar of Our Lady, you find Saint Benedict and Saint Joseph, and you find an old fresco of the Blessed Mother, which is connected to this little church where Saint Benedict lived. And it's a very small church. It's not one of the smallest, or it's one of the smallest in Rome. It's probably not the smallest. However, And I'm not talking about this church. We'll see it once we cross. I just want to show you this fresco here of Christ on the cross. And you see it in Hebrew. Expandi manus meas. I can't read it in the dark. I definitely... Tota die ad populum incredulum. Thank you. Expandi manus meas tota die ad populum incredulum qui graditur in via non bona post cogitationes suas populus qui ad iracundiam provocat me ante faciam meam semper Congregatio Divina Pietatis Posuit. So that's the name of the congregation at the end, which put that there. And it's Christ saying, he extends his arms, his hands, all day long to the impious, to the unbelieving people. And so it's just basically a call to recognize Christ as the Savior to the people, to those who don't believe. So we are going to cross. It's beautiful. I'm sorry I'm coming on early than I intended, and then I had the whole error at the beginning. But the sky right now is more. You can see a lot more. You can see this blue in the sky. We're walking across. This is an island. It's really kind of charming to walk across this island. This live isn't gonna be as long as the other ones, but as I was saying as we were walking here, there is a hospital, and then over here is a community, residents living, and a church. A church built in honor of Saint Bartholomew the Apostle, as well as Saint Adalbert, a martyr. So 2 martyrs are there, and 2 martyrs are, it's built in the honor of 2 martyrs. So you can see the river down below. Down below there, you can go down on this island. Sometimes you see people running, having a picnic, especially on this other side. The water flows more down over there. You can see that's all pavement upon which you can walk. There's an old bridge over there which is broken, actually. There's also restaurants on this island. I've never eaten on this island, but I have friends who have, and they say it's good food. But it's charming to just walk on the streets in the evening. It's Saturday evening. Everyone's going to dinner. It's a bit early for dinner. People are going to an aperitivo. So it's just 6. People don't start eating here until 7, and that's even a bit early. You can see some people are just having an aperitivo. An aperitivo is just, drinks and snacks. Spritz. Ooh, they have Venetian spritz, which are my favorite. Here is St. Bartholomew. The church is already closed, but it's definitely worth seeing. It's kind of a small miniature tower here. Don't have much to say here, but it's under the care of the Comunità di Sant'Egidio. So you also have some interesting artwork inside, which is in honor of quote-unquote new martyrs. So it's not necessarily... also here you have just a tribute to the fact that, this island has been for the care of the sick. Saint Paulinus, Saint Ioannis of Saint John of God. Who else? St. Francis of Assisi. Who else? St. Bartholomew. And as you can see in this basilica, it says there, in this basilica rests the corpus, the body of St. Bartholomew Apostle. You see little kids playing soccer. This is a common thing to do. One of the things, the way to enjoy the Italian piazza. Look at that, that's beautiful actually. You see the reflection of the shadow of the cross. An old sign, it seems. So there's this church. There's this building here, which you can see some apartments inside. There's restaurants. And then here's the hospital. Then one goes down here to go down onto the island. There's a stairwell at the end of that where that man is walking down there. Where we're going, we don't have far to go. We're going right there to that bell tower, which is one of the smallest, or actually it's the smallest bell tower in Rome. It is from the 11th century. Speeding. So it's called San Benedetto in Piscinula, which is in reference to the area in front of the church used to be baths, like public baths. Don't know how sanitary it would have been because you can tell we're on the river basically, and that water is not so clean. Oh, let's get across the street here. Not get run over. Let's get around this crowd of ragazzi. We've mentioned before, we walked through Trastevere last week, and I told you it's a hip place to hang out. It's kind of the young neighborhood. So you see late into the night, you see kids here, even young adults. There's good restaurants. Used to be a very cheap place to eat. Even when I came in 2015, you could get a plate of pasta here for €4. But before the euro came, and it was the lira, you used to be able to eat like a full meal for under $10. We're gonna see. I don't know if they're gonna tell me to put the camera away when we go inside. I don't know if there's evening mass. But this is the little church, and this is where Saint Benedict, when the church is. The complex here was built by I think it's the Avinci family, which was related in a way to Saint Benedict, and so that's why he was here. And there's a little room with an image of Our Lady, and that is meant to be his rooms. And that is why we have a tie back to Trinità, and that's why we have Trinità in honor of Saint Benedict as well, because of that image of Our Lady, which is here, as well as a similar image at Trinità, which is an image as well, which miracles have been attributed to via the life of Saint Philip Neri. So let's go inside. I won't be able to talk inside.
Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei la benedetta tra le donne, benedetto il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Grazie, il Signore è con te. Tu sei la benedetta tra le donne, benedetto il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei la benedetta tra le donne, benedetto il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei la benedetta tra le donne, benedetto il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei la benedetta tra le donne, benedetto il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei la benedetta tra le donne, benedetto il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù.
Okay, I'm going to turn this around. So we just went into San Benedetto. Yeah, so they were praying the rosary in Italian. And, oh, there's also this, oh, you can't see it, hold on. There's this image, in that little chapel, which I just showed you where the image of Our Lady was, you can see also a stained glass of Saint Benedict. So that's where he would pray, that's where he lived. And that image of Our Lady is what he saw. So they were just inside this little church, San Benedetto in Piscinula, and they were praying the rosary with the Blessed Sacrament exposed, which is a nice, beautiful sight to see. It's, what time is it now? 6, just coming up on 6:30. I don't know what the occasion was, if it's special or if it's a regular part of their schedule, but we are in Trastevere. Now I'm going to go get an aperitivo with my friend and maybe dinner in the city before we head out back to the seaside. But thank you for joining. Sorry for the improvisation of time, but we will see you next week and this evening at 9 p.m. So in 2.5 hours, the video of tomorrow for Sexagesima is going to be published. So we go to St. Paul's outside the walls. So I'm really happy we just went to San Paolo alla Regola, and we're going to go see the burial place of St. Paul tomorrow in the church, the Roman Station Church, for Sexagesima Sunday. So a blessed Sunday to you, and I will see you at the next live.